send me over some stuff to sell. But that was ages ago, so it probably
Well,
wasn't.
Anne, you'll have to find it. Anne, you'll have to find it. Okay, let's get
Well,
started. Right.
that's a cup of tea. I don't know what I've done with it. It's only a small room.
How can you lose a cup of tea? Oh, by the way, there's a cup of tea. Oh, you're doing a Reverend Buckland when he has this mammoth skull on his desk and he just says, "Oh, it's on the desk in the evening, and in the morning it's disappeared." Oh, I lost a mammoth skull from the most important cave that I've ever looked at in West Wales, and it happened to disappear in my office. The cleaner must have brushed it off on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. I thought so. Um, right, okay then. Right. So I want to know if there's any news from anybody tonight. Like, we'll start off with
Oh,
Goff.
No, no news.
oh.
Okay,
Nope.
okay.
Did you
I
go
don't know.
see the film?
Pardon?
No,
Did
he's
you
not watching a bloody film. He's watching me, a silly woman.
did you go and see the film?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Wonderful.
And he said it was so wonderful. He said it was better. Did you say it was better than the first film?
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't better, but it was very good.
different.
I was listening to
No,
this one guy on the radio, and he actually said that it was better than the first film, which I thought was a bit sort of from a Ridley Scott film. I was just thinking, okay, is that possible? But then again, got seen it, and what do I know?
No, well, you'll have to go. You'll have to watch it. I think Anne said it was very bloodthirsty, didn't she?
Yeah.
And it was, but it was very tastefully done.
Yeah, I suppose, it's got to be, really. I mean, they were.
Hang on a minute, Anne. Have you seen the new film?
No, but Pat.
How can you tell us about it then?
Pat read a review, which
look,
which
I
stopped
can
her
say
going to see it.
I can say that I'm blooming Action Man, but it doesn't mean to say it's true, does it? Do you know what I mean?
I think you should go and see it.
Yeah, go and see it.
It's
still on. It's £12, 11.95.
Yeah.
Yeah, watch it. Take your husband.
Oh fuck no! Right, okay. Right, yeah.
Actually, he can't sit for a film.
And why can you go? Why can you go with me? Yeah, I'll take you.
I don't. Is it on in Carmarthen?
Yeah, it's on in. Yeah, it's on in Carmarthen. Yeah,
actually, it's well worth going. Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's
Carmarthen has got.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed. But I mean, I'm not up on Roman emperors and the emperor. No. The two twins were what Caligula.
Yeah. Oh, Caligula. Yeah.
Not Caligula. No.
Oh.
Caracalla.
Oh, Caracalla. Yeah.
Oh. Well, I like the guy.
Caracalla. Yeah. What?
Plays the role that what's his name played.
Yeah. What's his name?
But that was in the first film you played.
What's his name? But because he was he's Irish, and he was in a film with a woman and a young woman, and it was very nice series. And I thought, how could he be doing this?
But what's that got to do with it?
Anyway, yeah. Apart from that,
he might change my imagination, about him.
Just shut up.
All right then.
Yeah. No, you don't have to take it. You don't have to take it virtually, but I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. I've lost the plot. Right. We were asking everybody if they had any news, and I think where did we get to? Goff, did we get on to you? No, you haven't.
Yeah, I did send you the piece about the gladiator sword they found in.
When? When did you send that?
I sent it last week.
How can I have missed that? Right, okay, I'm just having a look now. Goff, live it. Oh yeah, the gladiator knife handle. Oh, we got to do that tonight. Yeah, I remember that. That was great. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to do that. We're going to do that. Yeah, we're going to put that in there. We are going to do. I remember looking at that. I haven't. Yes. Yeah. Don't talk to me about spilling popcorn in the cinema again. It was embarrassing. Really was. It was really embarrassing having to say to the staff, can I have a little dustpan and stuff for yeah, and I'm going to take them back for the chickens. Anyway, right, okay. Oh God, I it's cramping my style. This. I was just about to ask Anne. Oh, for fucking forget it, Richard.
No, nothing for me.
And you're going to make sense of anything, Richard?
No. Oh, I emailed you those pictures and a
Yeah, Richard. Yeah,
the old rectory and the.
Richard, can I just make a point with that, right?
Yeah.
I can't cut and paste what you've sent me.
Why not?
Because it's fixed on the screen. Yeah. You got to send me, yeah, like a file I can cut and paste it.
Right.
All you need to do is cut and paste that into an email and send it over to me, and I can just put it straight in. I've got the image. That's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Okay. Good. Well done. Anyway, I got that, Richard. Yeah, it seems to be working. Anne, have you got any news? Right. What? Right, Anne. Right. Don't talk about a film that you've not seen and have an opinion, right? Because you just don't work, right? Anne, anything you want to tell us?
Oh, no, only the tower, but we'll talk about that next week.
Right. So I think it's a good idea you getting sort of a mock-ups and how it looks. I didn't. Yeah, the white paint was on there because it was painted white once, but that was in the 1970s. So.
Right. Yeah.
And they had signs and stuff all over it.
Mm.
So the problem is that with those types of buildings is when the paint doesn't stay long on them.
No.
So yeah.
No, especially.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What?
No, it's all right. I haven't really. I know. I don't think I've really taken much notice of anything at the moment archaeological. I'm sure
Okay.
things will come to me, but.
Right. Okay. I'll just keep stroking my pussy and we'll crack on. Right.
All right.
Yeah. Right. Go on. Let her on, Richard.
Yeah.
Good. Right. Okay. Right. I'm gonna get on to where I was last night.
The only thing I was going to say was there was a lot.
Oh, for God's sake! Bloody say it then.
Oh, there's been a lot of news about the area we were talking about the other day. Something's been going on there, you know, the fens and the fenlands. Or is it just a question on a quiz show? It might have been a question on a quiz show. But yeah.
And what are you all about?
Nothing.
And I've just had some news from Goff, and it says that the film was 2 hours and 28 minutes. And 2 hours 28 minutes, and it's a 15.
Oh, right. Okay. I don't know anyone under 15.
Yeah, let's just move on. Right, anything you want to tell us, Pat?
No, just except I'm having my dinner here. That's why I'm not in the picture.
All right, okay, don't worry about it. Let's not hear you masticating. Okay. Right, okay. Enjoy your dinner. Yeah, well done, Anne. It's all good. I wonder if Roman Gladiator, right? Roman Gladiator. Hang on, and it's no, we don't want Russell bloody Crowe, right? Roman Gladiator. Hang on, Anne. Shut up. Roman Gladiator knife handle, right?
Knife handle.
Yeah, knife handle. Anne, it's a handle of a knife. Right. So there we go. And that there, look at that there. It's tiny.
Uh,
Do you see the size of that then? Look at that.
That 2000. Oh, yeah.
It's tiny.
Looks like
Right,
a
anyway, rare 2,000-year-old gladiator knife handle found near Hadrian's Wall. It's amazing that they can actually tell us that it's exactly 2,000 years old. Amazing that, right? So a rare gladiator-themed knife handle has been found near Hadrian's Wall, offering new insights into what? No, that's not on a handle there. Right, look how tiny that is. It's absolutely tiny.
That
Isn't it?
looks like a model of a man. Oh, it's
It's
just
a freaking gladiator, that's why. Right, anyway, it goes on to say, archaeologists have uncovered a remarkable 2,000-year-old Roman knife handle in Northumberland. The discovery was made in the River Tyne near Corbridge, Roman town, features a detailed depiction of a gladiator. This unique find sheds light on the influence and popularity of gladiators across the Roman Empire, including its farthest reaches in Britain. And it's amazingly enough found at the release of Gladiator 2.
Wow.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
It basically says the handle crafted from copper alloy portrays a circular gladiator. Now, I've no idea what a circular gladiator is. We're going to look that up anyway because Pat will want to know. So a circular gladiator, SECUTOR.
Tells you on there, it says Secutus named after the Latin term for chaser.
What did you tell me?
We're known for engaging in close combat against their agile counterparts. The Retiari.
Hang on a minute. No, that's wrong. That is actually wrong. It says here a secutor was a class of gladiator in ancient Rome.
Yeah.
It's a classic gladiator. Anyway, notably, the figurine represents a left-handed fighter, a rarity in Roman culture, where left-handedness was often considered inauspicious. And if you were left-handed in the medieval period, you usually burnt as a witch. Researchers from English heritage have suggested that this specific detail may indicate the handle was modelled after an actual gladiator rather than serving as a general representation. Isn't that amazing? It's amazing. What the hell? Right, anyway, let's just see if we can get another image of this thing. Right. Another image, and then we'll crack on. Nope. No. Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is. I think that's lovely, isn't it?
It's
Look
still
at that
very
there.
small though, isn't it? For a
It's
handle.
tiny. But as I've told you all my life, Anne, size doesn't mean everything.
It might be just for cutting meat or something.
Oh fuck. And there's the back of it, Anne.
Oh.
Yeah. I think it's actually quite detailed. I like these little things. I like these little things, and there it is again. Isn't he cute? So anyway, we're gonna crack on, right? We're gonna crack on, and we're going to we're gonna do what we're meant to be doing. So anyway, so let's go to yes, what we did right. One thing that we do on a regular basis, right? On a daily basis, I do a video, which I put online every single day, right? And it's about a different part of Roman Britain, right? And I explain about my sheep. The ones with the black horns, that one there, is descendant from the dun-faced sheep of Scotland, which the Romans would have had back then in Roman Britain. And I'm explaining that. And then what I do is I look at a different stone site built in the Roman period every single day. And interestingly enough, that got me thinking, because we're looking at Alderney today, right? And I did a video a few days ago on this site, right? And amazingly enough, the wall there is Roman and the gateway's Roman as well. And this is one of the most complete sets of Roman wall buildings, actually wall for a micro fort anywhere in Britain. Obviously, there's one at Holyhead, and there's some on the East Coast, and you could mention some other military sites in Britain, but it's relatively intact. And this is actually on Alderney. I did a video of this, and then this ties us in with the fact that the archaeological site that we look at today, which is an Iron Age site, is actually meters away from this site. So I thought that's a good link. And the one thing about Alderney is that they are actually finding new stuff all the time over there. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to here, and somebody mentioned that they wanted us to look at Alderney, so that's what we're doing. In the Iron Age. So Alderney, archaeology in Alderney, excavating the biggest Iron Age and Gallo-Roman site in the Channel Islands. And when people use the word Gallo, they mean Gallic. So it's sort of French stroke Roman native site on the island of Alderney. And whenever people are referring to Alderney, they've got to say Guernsey at the same time, because Alderney is part of the Guernsey set of islands, which gets very confusing, really. So let's actually show you where Alderney is. There she is. So you've got Jersey, Guernsey, and Alderney, which is the one with the little things on it, right? So Alderney is governed by Guernsey, right? And they're two separate sort of little micro governments. What were you going to say, Anne?
Where's Alderney? Where those forts are?
Yeah, where the red things are. That's where Alderney is. Yeah.
Gosh, I didn't realise this.
Yeah. So Alderney is closer to mainland Britain than Jersey. In fact, Jersey's further away than Guernsey. Right. So let's crack on. So what I wanted to do is sort of try and let us see another part of Britain in the Iron Age, and then I felt last night the most exciting bit of my presentation today is actually looking at pets in the Iron Age. But you can't have it all. Anyway, so one thing, I kid you not, the guy excavating this site is actually called Philip de Jersey, and he works regularly in Jersey, right? So you can imagine somebody saying, "Oh, right, what's your name? My name's Philip de Jersey. And what, you live in Jersey?" Yeah. So what's your surname? Jersey. No, that's where you come from. Anyway, we've had that conversation. So basically, this site that we're looking at is one of those sites that was actually discovered in 2017. It's a really new site. And like most archaeology occurring across the British Isles, this site was uncovered whilst they were digging trenches for electrical cables. And the archaeology here is an amazing 2.5 meters deep. And it's probably likely that the Iron Age remains here survived, because in the Second World War, even though the Germans were digging up and building all sorts of things across Alderney, right? This site was not damaged at all by that digging, because it's so deep. And we mentioned the other week that what they're finding on Alderney is that there's certain areas that they don't excavate in Alderney, because there's lots of remains buried from the Second World War who were slave labor gangs that had basically stopped slave labor gangs that were working on Alderney. And Stott was actually a commander in the German SS, and he was also responsible for the requirement of people to work in slave labor camps. He was killed in 1942 and replaced by Albert Speer. I thought I'd put that little bit of a fact in there. But there were these forced labor camps across Alderney, and Alderney was a complete military zone in the Second World War. The civilians
Oh.
were shipped out. And so there are certain parts of Alderney where the locals don't want people to dig because
No.
of the bodies that are buried there from the Second World War, and they feel it's just too new in
Yeah.
history
Yeah.
for the bodies to be excavated. So they just want them left. But when they do excavate, they do find lots of human bodies, but from the Iron Age and from the Bronze Age and from the likes of the Roman era as well. Yes, Roman remains on the island. So as they're excavating at this site, we've got Bronze Age, Iron Age remains to the Roman period, and we've got a nice little sort of representation of a trench there. Got a really nice picture coming up as well about a trench. And what they've got is this site is a place known as Longest Bay, which is near the Roman fort site that we've just seen, which is referred to as the nunnery. Now, if those of you would have a copy of my Romans in South Wales in front of me, you will notice that the specific site, if we go back to this site, if we go back to, where is it? Where the bloody hell is it? Right. If we go back to this site, right, there was a big tower in the middle. It's technically it's not a true fort. There was a huge tower in the middle, which was known as a signal station. And there's an illustration of a signal station in my Romans in South Wales, which would be probably the same as what would actually be here, right? And there would be this wall around it. There'd be a small garrison, but the main point of this was actually the signal station. Right. Anyway, back to what we were talking about, right? So this site is really, so you got a big area of archaeology there, and what they found at this site is Bronze Age remains, Iron Age remains, human remains, building remains, and Roman remains. And what we've got is cremation burials, inhumation, where human remains. That's where inhumations would have been there, 1st century burial, and obviously human remains like this one. And the one thing to be said about this site is rather intriguing, and I made this point last night. If those of you are interested in Sutton Hoo, you will know that when they excavated at Sutton Hoo, they excavated the ghostly ribs of the ship that was buried at Sutton Hoo. And when we're referring to the ghostly ribs, basically staining and the outline of the rotten woods in the sand at Sutton Hoo. And at Sutton Hoo, they basically come across relatively zero human remains. Basically, they had sand burials. Basically, they would see staining that the sand had eaten away at the bones, and that's all we had left of human remains. That was in sand. But interesting enough, this is in sand as well, right? And the point being made is that human remains are in sand and they've not been damaged at all by the sand, right? And these are older than the Sutton Hoo burials. So when archaeologists come on television and they say, "Oh, look, sand is very sort of acidic to bones," that's not true, because they're not damaged here. And also, if you want to think about that as well, if you want to think about Flinders Petrie and the Nagada Desert, you will note as well that Flinders Petrie's bodies were all buried in sand, and he found them. So I just want to put that in there as a really interesting one. And the preservation at this site is so good, right? Is so really, really good that they actually found the remains of a baby, a neonatal baby, a baby that probably died at the time of their birth, right? And they found the remains of a baby here, which wasn't in the Bronze Age layers, which wasn't in the Iron Age layers, but we're in the Roman layers. Now, that's the Roman wall. So just underneath the Roman wall, right, they found the remains of this neonatal baby, right? And the one intriguing thing is that it is actually buried associated with the Roman walls. Now, this is something that I'm not going to go into now, but in the Roman world, a child unless they get to the age of 7 or maybe 5 or 7, wasn't really classed as anything, right? Wasn't really classed as a human being. And you had to get to a certain age to be classed as a human being, right? It's a bit like how I know this is all nonsense when you think about it. Well, what I'm saying is fact, but when it's human relations, it's sort of like a nonsense thing. It's really cruel. In the medieval period, for example, if you weren't christened, the child would forever float around in eternity because they haven't been christened and they wouldn't go to heaven, right? It's the sort of the equivalent of that. Anyway, it's rather interesting. They actually found the remains of a baby, right? A neonatal baby, right? And that links us into something else. Now, one of the sites that I will be looking at in connection with the in connection with my Roman series online that I'm doing daily. Basically, I do a 1-minute video, right? It's like a YouTube thing. They want me to do this 1-minute video every single day, so I do, and I get, that's what I do. And I'll be visiting a site in Dorchester, right? Which is near the hill fort at Maiden Castle. And in Dorchester, they got a villa. And guess what they had buried around the villa? Several burials of children, right? Babies burials, right? So it's not exactly true, right? It's not exactly true when people turn around and say that, the Romans really didn't care about their children, because they did. But officialdom is a different thing altogether, right? So they're excavating at site, and it's usually with archaeology, it's just a field, right? So as we're excavating down, we're finding these remains, we're finding these ruins, right? And again, they had to be very careful. They've got to be. This is really weird, right? The archaeology in Alderney is really weird. They've got to basically say that the human remains that are there or indicated on the LiDAR are not modern human remains, because if they're modern human remains, they don't want them excavated. But if they're old human remains, they want them excavated. So you've got to dig down to them to find out if they're old human remains or new human remains. But on this instance, they were old human remains. And the guy online and your boyfriend online, Dodgy Git, he says hello, right?
Hello.
He says hello to you, Anne, and the only reason he signs on is to actually see you.
Oh.
Yeah, that is it. Dodgy Git absolutely loves you, and I've actually given him your phone number several times, and he'll be ringing you. No, data protection doesn't work here, Anne. Right. Anyway, so the point is, again, is that they've excavated within this area, in this little area, they've excavated 3 sets of human remains, Bronze Age, and then we're coming into the Iron Age, and so it's rather interesting that we've got a little area, and then directly above you've got Roman remains, which is quite unusual. And the unusual thing is as they're working here, the Roman remains are directly built above a burial ground. Now, in the Roman world, that would be abhorrent, right? It was not the type of thing that you did in the Roman world, to build buildings on top of where burials are. But you can imagine that after a few years, the wooden markers, or if they had wooden markers indicating there were burials underneath the surface, were long gone, rotted away, and the wind had blown sand in and built up 2.5 meters of sand above this, right? By the way, the Dodgy Git is saying, "Hi, Anne, you beautiful person," right? He's loving you, Anne.
Oh dear.
Anyway, Goff's a bit jealous because Goff wants a woman to come on and say how much she loves him, but we'll soon sort it out one day. So anyway, so the one thing about Alderney and the preservation of the archaeology, and the reason why they haven't found many things until now, is because the wind-blown sand buries the archaeology up to 2.5 meters under the ground, which is actually quite deep, to be honest with you. Which is considerably deep when you think about it. And the wind-blown sand blowing everything in. I mean, it's very difficult to excavate in sandy conditions. It really, really is. If the sand is compacted, you can get away with it for a short period of time, but then the sand starts to collapse. So you've got to be very, very careful. And obviously, we've got to be very careful with little indications of walls like this, and very very special indications of walls like this. So we excavate and then we backfill, and then we can go away happily, and the Roman walls will be preserved. But again, back to the bones, they're in an exceptional state of preservation. I've got another set of human remains coming into this as well. But there is one thing to be said, as I've already mentioned, this landscape, this landscape itself has not been built on or occupied since after, the Roman period. That's it. They've done nothing with the landscape, other than the fact that in the Second World War, the good old Wehrmacht, under the stop building program in 1941, 1942, were building these bunker complexes all the way around Alderney, right? And I have been to Jersey, and I've seen the bunker complexes in Jersey, and it makes you wonder what was going through the minds of the Germans when they were building on Alderney. But that's another lecture and another thing altogether. By the way, you've got another fan on your Caveman as well from Florida. So anyway, they've kept on excavating within this landscape and sort of doing the good old geophysics, and and basically loads of Roman Samian ware coming up around the site as well. One of the things that we don't usually think of with the Channel Islands is a landscape of rich Roman remains, but we're proving that to be wrong tonight.
Karl,
So, yeah, go on.
what year did the Romans arrive there?
Right, that's really interesting. It's that is going to be a bone of contention, but we're thinking that's a bit of a problem, Richard. Right? When did the Romans come to Britain? AD 43, but lots of places in Britain weren't Romanized for a long time. In fact, bits of Cornwall, bits of Anglesey and North Wales and southern Scotland, even though we've got the Roman era, Richard, right? People are still just doing the Iron Age thing. So what we do know is possibly we've got the Roman era in Alderney by around AD 100. But then again, there's no reason to say that there weren't some other things in going on an Alderney before that. Because when you think about it, Richard, we're thinking about the defeat of Vercingetorix at Elysee outside Paris in the year 54 BC by Julius Caesar. Right, that's Paris. So obviously we're not going too far away to Normandy, and then we're projecting over to the likes of these islands. Right, so it's possible that we're looking around the birth of Christ at least, Richard, if we think about that very, very logically. But again, it's trying to work out whether these people felt themselves as Roman before the Roman military actually builds anything there, and when you think about it, Dodgy gets mentioned, Richborough, the wonderful Roman fort at Richborough in Kent, for example, which is another site that I'll be putting into my regular daily series on YouTube, right? And but when you think about it, you think the reason why I'm mentioning that, you think, right, when you've got a big Roman fort, the Romans have been here, right? There is their mark, but the Romans don't really need to set their mark to have somewhere as part of their empire. For example, you could argue that Ireland was part of the Roman Empire, right? Because they had one punitive expedition over there, and that was it. But it's a very, very difficult, very, very difficult shape of things to answer that question, Richard. But hopefully we've come there some way. Now, this wonderful skeleton itself is associated with those stones behind, and those stones behind being another one of those walls. And it's a set of human remains, occupational wall behind, and that occupational wall behind is actually Bronze Age. The other wall itself, which is seen, is a Roman wall. And when you think about the Roman wall, it's a bit potted together. This is a bit pished, potted together as well. And this wall is associated with that wall there as well. But then again, the wall probably would have been long abandoned, and that structure long abandoned before the burial place there. And obviously sand had blown in, and they've got radiocarbon dates for these things, wonderful radiocarbon bit of dating. And the thing is as well is somebody's mentioned online, you know, where the point is somebody's mentioned online, caveman online, which is another one of your fans, Anne. He's mentioned basically, you know, we don't challenge the narrative when we find bits of Roman evidence. Bits of Roman evidence is a Roman wall, but it doesn't mean to say it was actually built by people who were actually of Roman ilk. They just decided to build in a Roman way. So that's another point to actually put in here. So back to the other illustration, back to the Bronze Age body, Bronze Age skeleton. This individual's been in the ground for under 3,000 years, but bloody well old anyway, and naturally hidden under all that sand. So in the meanwhile, what we've got to do is we've got to start to think about Alderney in a different ilk, and Alderney with a sense of purpose in history, and being a landscape that is exceedingly rich. And these areas of Britain are just areas now that people are actually just learning about, right, within the annals of archaeological excavation. So what I'd like to do now, right? So we're going to go to another little snippet on Alderney as well as we think what they're doing again with Alderney. They're coming across, you know, archaeology of you know, pottery, Roman Samian-ware pottery. Again, that answers Richard's question. When did the Romans get there? Obviously, we got loads and loads of Roman Samian-ware, but it could have been Roman Samian-ware actually traded with people on Alderney, whoever these Francophiles were on Alderney. And what we've got is that we did know something before 2017 within this area because nearby they did actually find a interesting site, a dry stone wall structure from the Iron Age, early Iron Age, dating precisely to the 490s BC, which is rather interesting. A building, wait for it, this is massive, a building that was 9 meters in diameter, which was basically a stone circular footing, 9 meters in diameter, with a hearth and a fire pit in the middle, right? And with that site, very, very similar in dimensions to some of those sites on Shetland, when we looked at Scatness, you know, those big sort of wheelhouses on Scatness. This is dated to the 490s, and you're thinking that when they were excavating this site, they found lots of animal bones in the 1960s, near to where we're talking about these remains, for example. And they even little bone tweezers, isn't that cute, from the Bronze Age, little Iron Age, I would say, little bone tweezers and loom weights and typical paraphernalia associated with farming and everyday life on the wonderful island of Alderney. So when we think and we tenderly go through this, right, and again, we've looked at these buildings, we know what these are now, and try and look at my video online, and obviously this is I think the other point as well is that our friend online is basically saying, you know, the Romans were unchallenged by local circumstances. Well, would you stand up to the Romans, for example, if you were in the Iron Age? Probably not. After Vercingetorix, 200,000 warriors camped up in Elysae, defeated by the Romans. But anyway, so this is, I feel that out of all the images that we've shown recently, right, this is a really good image this is a really good image, because you zoom in, right, and look at the detail. Hang on a minute. Look at that detail there, right? You've got a set of human remains in there, right? Really, really nice set of human remains. And again, that is another bit of the Roman wall. These are another set of human remains, extremely deep. The one thing I would say, right, is the archaeologists are risking their lives there because they're 2.5 meters deep and they haven't got any hard hats on, but that's life. So Iron Age skeletons excavated in Alderney. This itself, the human remains there dating to about 200 years BC. And again, this was part of just a 3-week excavation, all that working, but naturally they're working in sand as well. And you know, it's again giving you that sort of little bit of information. These aren't huge, massive archaeological excavations that they're having on Alderney, but big enough excavations that you're really getting the detail and really understanding, you know, the play in the past, going into the Iron Age, these ancient secrets. But to actually get down here, that wall above, that Roman wall above, to actually get down there, they're actually excavating through lots of items like this, lots of Roman Samian ware like this. They're fine Roman tablewares, hearths, Roman glass, jewelry, all excavated within this landscape, all excavated within the longest common landscape, which is near that Roman wall site known as the nunnery. And it's like thinking that we think about this archaeology, and we you know, sometimes we look at the landscape and we think, right, you know, we haven't found anything here, we don't know of anything here, and lo and behold, years go by, somebody excavates and we find wonderful things. They're still finding new things at Sutton Hoo, for example. You think, oh, you know, they're not going to find anything at Sutton Hoo, but they do. So what we've, if we go back to that illustration again, right? If we go back to this illustration again, and it's excavating to give you that little piece of the story. And let's get my notes back up here. So what one the reason why we've got that set of human remains, and we'll go back to this pot in a minute, right? We're excavating there, and we go back to that detail. I think that's a really nice piece of detail, right? Oh, and actually, think about something after the break, right? After the break, we look at pets in the Iron Age, and when we look at pets in the Iron Age, one animal that we do look at today, illustrating that there are pets in the Iron Age, is actually displayed in a skeletal form in a display cabinet, right? And obviously it's the skeletal remains of a dog. Now, usually I would say if it's a set of human remains in a display cabinet, is that the right thing to do? Or should we cover up bits of the body of the human remains to give it dignity? But we don't actually talk about the same thing when we think about animal remains. We think we can look at animal remains and it's fine, you know, everybody's okay with it. But is that the case? So we're not going to talk about that now. We're going to go a little bit later. Now, again, this is extremely well preserved, and this dates back to 200 years BC. Extremely well preserved in the sand. Do you see my point there? At Sutton Hoo, this would be nothing. Even the teeth would be eaten away by the acidic sand. Here, the sand works differently in preserving the human remains extremely well. Now, let's talk about this set of human remains and another set of human remains, because I actually found two in this locality. So far, they excavated two sets of human remains, and they were actually buried on top of each other, right? So there was one layer of human remains, and there was another layer of human remains as well. Now, when they were excavating, right, and I've tried to work out if this is the example, but one of the two of the sets of human remains turned out to be a juvenile. A juvenile, we think probably about 16 years old, and the other one was wearing a very nice bronze necklace, and then an Iron Age necklace on top of that, and also a bronze bracelet. And Anne's just sent me a text saying that she is Anne sent me a text saying that she'd have to go a minute and she'll be back. And now, the interesting thing about the other body, back to the bronze necklace and back to the iron necklace, is that very wording, iron necklace, right? I've actually seen an illustration of that. I'm just reading with what I've got here. But an iron necklace would be far more valuable in the Bronze Age than a bronze necklace, and a iron necklace would be far more valuable in the Iron Age than a gold necklace, because the amount of work it would have taken to actually produce the iron in the first place and to mine it and all the rest of it. So again, I think that that's really interesting. And the other thing as well is about these sets of human remains as well, is that is obviously the one that we've actually been looking at. The very interesting thing about these sets of human remains is the following, right? It says they've excavated both of the sets of human remains, and this is in the Iron Age, and both of the bodies were pointing in opposite directions, right? And the reason why I've mentioned that, and the reason why I think that's significant, is that whenever you watch something like Time Team, they always say, right, somebody comes on and say, right, which direction is the set of human remains pointing in? And the archaeologists say, if it's pointing in an easterly direction, it's obviously Christian. And if it's pointing in a northerly direction, it's obviously a pagan. Absolute claptrap, right? Because I have been on archaeological number of archaeological excavations, as you know, and you can find people orientated in any direction, right? The last set of human remains that I excavated would have naturally been a Christian. Their head was pointing in a northerly direction, right? And you're thinking, how do you know the person was Christian? The person lived in a Christian Britain, right? And so what I'm trying to get at is whatever direction your head's pointing in doesn't mean to say you're Christian or pagan. That's the point, right? And they wouldn't have been Christian 200 years BC, before the birth of Christ, unless they had special powers, right? So what we've again, these two bodies based on top of each other. Obviously, one has rotted away, and then a few years later, they've put another burial there, yeah, and they've buried another set of human remains. So what they're saying, the wall remains. If we go back and we just sort of look at that little bit of wall there, the wall remains themselves a part of a domestic occupation, and they found evidence of Roman amphoras, and they found examples of cooking pots. But again, that's more likely in the 100 years AD rather than the burial here, which is 200 years BC. Mixing bowls, mortaria, and various other activity, including iron working evidence associated with the Roman layers. Now, this is something that really interested people last night, right? And I don't know why it interested people last night, but before we get on to it, I wanted to mention this object. And I'm really annoyed that my USSR badge has fallen off the top of my hat. So I'm gonna have to find something else to stick on there. I thought I'd put that on there, but this is rather interesting, because what is interesting to me is not only is this one of many Iron Age items that they found on the site, and Iron Age items that are really relatively intact, right? Obviously, a third of it's not there, but you can get an idea, it's really there. What really interests me is there's iron banding on it, right? That's iron. There's iron banding on it, right? It was somehow there was iron banding, right? And that would mean that there were probably two little hanger mounts on it, and this could be hung above a fire, right? So this is the poor man and woman's cauldron, right? Because it had a mount, it had a strap around it, and I think that again is really, really interesting. Something that you don't usually see with the Iron Age. And being at the whatever they were using, whatever they had in here that was to hover over a fire or was to hover in a room, the iron wasn't as valuable as what was in the pot, because to use iron as a hang, so a strap around this with two sort of, if you think about two little handles there, one either side, right, and this could be hung, so the strapping all the way around. What I'm getting at is that obviously the iron used in this meant that whatever this was extremely valuable. So okay, yeah, there was another point I wanted to make before, the quite a really important point, right? And the really important point was the following statement, right? We'll leave that there for you to read, right? The important statement was when the Roman era started to sort of fall by the wayside in Alderney. So any sense of Roman order, any sense of Roman civilization on Alderney would have collapsed by 476, which is the end date of the Western Roman Empire, right? So you know it's that's the end date, 476. So any identification these people had with the Roman world was gone, right? And what came after that, and I was rather interested to read this, right? At the excavations, it says one of the exciting things that we found as well is the first evidence of Frankish occupation of Alderney in the 400s. And as somebody said, is that to do with Charlemagne and the Holy Roman Empire, right? And I just thought, not really, because it's a bit early. You know, we're talking about the 500s. And as somebody said, who are the Franks? And we don't hear about the Franks. And I actually thought, right, okay. before I went on to Google, and that's what we're going to do in a minute, right? It basically said they also found some nice remains of a Frankish palm beaker, which we'll try and get an image of what one of them is on screen in a few moments as well, which sits in your hand with a Christian motif on the bottom, which is very exciting, very rare find in Alderney. It shows these buildings were in use after the Romans had left. Can I just do something a minute? I've got a cat, and I do believe we've got a lamb trying to get in a minute. 1 second.
No, it's a lamb. Oh,
Little bandit, come on, oh. Right. Hello, little bandit. Right. Anyway, sorry guys. Right. What was I getting at? So this is a thing. I just wanted to. We mentioned the word Franks, right? And it's basically saying that as Roman civilization sort of disappears and whatever, you've got people who are Franks occupying the buildings in a way, right? That's what they're getting at. Whether that's true or not, let's just see what we've got. So let's just go to Google. Somebody just said I well stated, Carl. I'm not sure what statement they're referring to, but so what we've got. I went on to Google last night and I said, right, okay, who are the Franks now? If you type in Franks, this is remote. This is taking me back to school, right?
Franks and
Saxons. And basically, Richard remembers this in the same room I was taught. Can you remember Soapy Luxton giving history lectures talking about the Angles, Saxons, and Franks, Richard?
I know there was. I know there were Franks in Upton-on-Severn. Like,
Well, we're going to check this on now.
Severn.
We're checking it on now. Basically, when we were in school, we used to have like in school they used to give us a sheet. Can you remember that? I can't remember what the name of it. They used to have these this thing that would go through a roller, and it'd have a stamp and it would have a map, right? And the history teacher, in Richard had Soapy Luxton, I had Eugene Phillips, and there was also Reverend Garland. These were our history teachers in Barry Boys, right? And basically you have to colour in, and you would start off by saying the Angles in Denmark and the Saxons are somewhere in Germany there, and the Jutes are from Denmark as well, and then nobody really did the Frisians then, and we put the Franks in there, right? so then what we would then do is say the Franks went to areas of Norfolk and East Anglia. That's where we get the East Anglia from the Angles, right? And then what we've got is you've got the English Saxons, and that's where you get the name Sussex, East Sussex, or East Saxons. And so what we've got there, we've got the Saxons, we've got the purple, we've got the Saxons, right? And then somehow we would chuck the Jutes in there, right? And I can remember, I've not seen a plan on you. We'd always colour in the Isle of Wight in the colour of the Franks, right?
Oh.
Now, interestingly enough, the very interesting thing is, well, is if we zoom in there, if we can, and we can't really zoom in, but that little thing there is actually Alderney, right? So, and there's the Isle of Wight. Now, the point is that the Franks are occupying islands, right? And the other thing to say, without anyone saying the obvious, the name Franks is where we get the name France from, right? Which is, I know, is obvious, but but really the Normans, France, and so on. So it's very interesting that we're now sort of pulling history together, and we're thinking some of these Frankish people got to Alderney, and some of these Frankish people got to the Isle of Wight, right? And last night I then went on to another diatribe, right? And the diatribe was, which I explained, and I didn't go onto an image. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to my whiteboard, new whiteboard, right? New bit of technology, right? Are you looking at my whiteboard? Yes, good.
Yeah.
Right. I've never used this bit of technology. It's new, right? So basically, I don't know how I do this, right? So there we go. Yeah, that's it. Right, good. It's not really big enough screen though, is it? Are you getting a big screen on you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're going to clear the page. We're going to go. I don't really understand this bit of technology. We'll go to somewhere else a minute. Hang on. Stop share. We'll go to the other thing I used to use. I'll try and work that out, but we got another app on you, which anyway, we're back in the goat shed. Goff knows what I'm on about. Try new whiteboard. This is a bigger whiteboard, right? You remember my whiteboard back at the hall? Yeah, we're loving them, right? But when's it going to come on? Come on, quick. It's not working. Right, come on, work.
It says you've got to press
What? What have I got to press?
organize.
Oh, hang on, there. It's come. There it is. It's there. Prepare. Right, okay. So we've got a bigger board now. So what it is, right? When you think this is an equation that I usually use, right? When you talk about, for example, the Roman period, right? What I usually say is that the population of Britain, you see in this, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, Roman. You said
Yeah,
Roman.
good. But I can't seem to get rid of everything else. Hang on a minute. There.
We can't
Oh, it
see
makes it look bigger and
anything.
smaller. Yeah, cool. So right. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make, right, and I'm not doing a good job of this at all because I'm just trying to work out what they've changed. Right. So when you think about the Roman period, right, you think about the population of Britain being somewhere maximum point of between about 5. Hang on, stop there. Maximum point of roughly. Oh, it goes up there. Look at that. Oh wow, it moves around the screen. How do I get that back now, Anne?
I,
How do I
can't
get
see.
how do I get drawing again? 10. Right. So the population of Britain was roughly say maybe about 6 million, 5 to 6 million. Right. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is saying this, the population of Britain was probably 6 million, right? But the actual people who are actually from Italy in Britain, right, were in the lower thousands. So we're talking about maybe maximum of about 30 to 40,000 people were actually Roman living in Britain Britain in the Roman era around 200 years AD 200, right? So when you get to when you get, for example, if we move that up there, right, when you get, for example, to the period of, I'm getting used to this now, when you get, for example, to the period of the Angles and Saxons, right? So you've got the Angles, Saxons, Franks, and Jutes. By the time you get to that period, right, the population of Britain has probably dropped to somewhere between 4 and 5 million. So if we sort of look at the lower figure, about 4 million, right? And when you think about the Anglo-Saxons, Franks, and Jutes, roughly about AD 500, you're talking about there were a few thousand Angles, there are a few thousand Saxons, there are a few thousand Franks, there are a few thousand Jutes, probably 50,000 people that were actually of that ilk. Maximum, hugely, that is completely over exaggerated, but these are the people who come to dominate and rule over Britain, right? Because it's a rule of thumb. If you've got more money than somebody else, right, we'll get rid of this now. If you've got more money than somebody else, you're going to be the rulers, right? And the other interesting thing, if we chuck this in here as well, right? And if we just mention one other little thing, right? Trying to get used to this technology. So when you get to the Norman period, for example, what you've got, and remember, when I am writing this in, right, I'm using my finger. So when you get to the Norman period, the population of Britain's probably about 4 million, right? Maybe somewhere like that, right? And what happened overnight? And this is a little fact for your table, and we'll get off this now. This is a little fact for when you get around the Christmas table, right? If somebody says, when did William I become king of England or Britain, right? Christmas Day, the 25th of December, 1066. That's an easy date to remember. You can win any quiz with that fact. Or the 14th of October, 1066, the Battle of Hastings. There you go. But the point I'm trying to make is that overnight, by about 1080, every member of the British aristocracy who had been Angles, Saxons, native Britain, whatever, right, other than one, was replaced by the Normans. Except there weren't very many Normans in Britain. There were probably maximum 10 to 20,000 Normans in Britain, but they dominated the land. So when we talk about Franks on Alderney, it's like, wow, Franks on Alderney, right? There were probably a very small number of them, and the rest of the people on Alderney had been there for generations, right? So that's something to remember when people start saying Normans, Romans, Vikings, Angles, Saxons. It's the same thing. It's small numbers of population dominating the landscape and having ownership, right? So I thought I'd chuck that in there. Anyway, so we got a few natives were left, in other words. So what I'm going to do is see what images we got left from Alderney, and then I'm going to call that a day. Oh, I haven't finished the Alderney bit now. So basically, so we've got people living in amongst what's left of the Roman buildings, because those buildings had long since been abandoned, and it was a new period. And it was a new moment of change. And at some point, I'm sure the Vikings ended up on Alderney as well. And so did the Normans. Hence how we've got that Britain link, Normans, France, Alderney, Jersey, Guernsey, Sark, Herne, and all the other little islands there as well. So what we're going to do now, and shut up. Anne hasn't really interrupted tonight, and Goff's fallen asleep. Right, we're going to do pets next. What we're going to do is find out if there's any questions. Goff, hopefully, Goff, if you start talking, we're going to see how many times Anne interrupts. Go for it.
No problem. No, it was very interesting. I got nothing to add to that. It was, very interesting that the Romans were there. I hadn't even considered that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? And it's also an interesting thing, right, that you don't think of, because in my little Roman series, which I'm looking at different bits of Roman Britain, I occasionally say to whoever I'm talking to at the minute, tell me a bit of Britain. And they say, I don't know, York. So I do a Roman stone site in York. Then they say, oh, Glasgow, and I do a Bearden, which is near Glasgow, which is a Roman set of remains. And then I thought, then for some strange reason, I thought, right, okay, there's got to be some Roman remains on the Channel Islands, right? And I found the bloody fort. You know, I found this freaking amazing fort on Alderney, right? And then I've been typing in Roman villa in Somerset, right? I found a Roman villa in Somerset, right? It's amazing. I've done a video on it, right? Nobody's ever heard of this thing. It's called Newt Roman Villa, Newt. And what they've done is it belongs to the Roman Historical Society, right? And you can only go and see the site if you're a member of the Roman Historical Society, right? They've excavated this site. They displayed the remains beautifully. They've got glass. They've got these glass walkboards above it. So you look down at the archaeology, there's glass all the way around it. It's in this huge glass greenhouse. And what's also amazing, Goff, they've reconstructed a full Roman villa, and I never knew it existed.
Well.
It was just like I'm only on number 17 of these videos. And so it's just like I think Kerry Ann, my daughter, she said, she gave me somewhere, and I went off on a tangent there. And then I realized that it's a big subject, and I'm enjoying doing it because it's something YouTube wants me to do, and I just thought I'd do it anyway. Thanks for that, Goff.
Okay.
We haven't got anything to report on the BBC this week. BBC Radio 4 Plus or whatever, but I'm sure we'll let you know.
Yeah.
Anything, you haven't had anything this week, have you?
No.
What, do you know, what did Malvin Bragg do this week?
I don't know, because I remember looking at what he was doing. It was something to do with painting and with artists, sort of famous artists. It wasn't anything to do historical, not like the one about the machine, the
Antikythera, yeah, that's right. Which was absolutely amazing. The Antikythera lecture was brilliant. And actually, Goff, without everybody knowing, I'm thinking of actually doing that as a lecture for Christmas.
Oh, we have done that with you.
Yeah, we have, but every time you do it, it's almost as if you've heard it loads of times, but you learn something all the time about it.
Certainly, yes.
It's an amazing object, and I think the point is with the Antikythera mechanism, they basically said that if it hadn't been found, you wouldn't know that the Greeks were this advanced, and that says everything about history. If things are not found, then you don't know anything. It's a bit like this lonely guy wandering down the street who was a major war hero, until he actually tells you he's a major war hero. Is this lonely old man wandering down the street?
Yeah.
So you've got to do the research and you've got to find out. Right. Richard, anything from you, darling?
No, very interesting.
Yeah, we know I've asked you, you've told us before. Where does the surname Enos come from?
Alderney.
Enos.
No idea. There's a lot of us in Borth. That's where most of the Enos.
A lot of you in where?
Borth.
Porth.
Porth.
Oh, Enos.
From
I think it's
Aberystwyth.
Welsh.
On the coast.
Oh, Borth! I thought you said
Borth.
Borth.
Oh, no, not Borth. Borth.
Your son lives in Porth, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I know someone who lives in Porth.
I don't care. Right.
Steve, he used to work at the university. He's a graphic designer, he was. Steve. Oh, God, I can't remember his surname.
Yeah, that's fine, Anne. Maybe you can tell us one day. Right.
I'll have to see if he's met him.
Yeah, we'll have to see if he's met him. The guy down.
Well, he's old now. He's my age, so. But he's
I don't care.
Children. Well, no, they're not young anymore.
I don't care. I really don't. Right. Okay, Anne, if you haven't got anything else to say, we'll go on to Pat. Anything you want to say, Pat?
No, found it interesting. This past week, I've been thinking about the salt. You know, how you said,
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
Mm.
you know, thinking about all the bits of pottery and all the locations of it and people wanting salt and how valuable it was. And
And I can't get any salt anywhere.
And the Germanic name and the Welsh name for salt is
um, Tare,
Haflen.
what? Helen,
Haflen.
Helen, Helen. Is that
Yeah,
it?
Halen. Yeah, Haflen.
Helen, yeah.
Oh, mm, mm,
Right. Okay.
mm.
We're going to take a break now. I am actually freezing because I got to get a bit of wood on the fire.
Mm.
The sheep is sat alongside the fire, fast asleep. So don't tell anyone I got sheep in my house. Anne was saying earlier on, oh, your sheep must be really old now. And I said, look, my lambs are only 7 months old. Give them a bloody chance.
Well, I thought they would be old enough to be outside,
Yeah, they've been outside for
but they come in
basically.
now because they're cold.
No, they're not. They're outside in the field cold to their mums. And then, yeah.
Oh, but it is
Anyway,
cold.
guys, we're gonna have a break now. So, Anne,
Yeah, okay.
we're gonna have a 10-minute break, right? And no telling everybody about your love life.
God, you're the only one who's got a love life. Or maybe.
Don't, Anne. Let's stop now, right? Stop. I can have a break.
Right. Bye. Bye.
Right, where are you going?
I'm going to have a coffee.
Yeah, me too.
All right, then. Well, we'll be back
You know what happened? I disappeared because some file was downloading in my computer and it just froze everything.
Oh dear.
Froze it, you know. So I had to turn it off and come back on again, you know. I don't know why it does that. Because I don't leave my Wi-Fi on all night, you know, I turn it off.
Couscous.
And
Right, okay then. Anyway, we're gonna have a break
so
now,
they
Anne.
don't
So,
they usually download at night all those files.
all right, I'm gonna have a drink.
Yeah. All right.
See ya.
All right then. Are you all right, Pat? Go
Yeah,
away, Carl.
all right.
Oh
Yeah.
no, we're going away.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
so
have to have coffee sometime again.
yeah, I got yeah, I mean it's just cold this week, isn't it? You know,
It is,
could
yeah.
go to the could go to the you know, where we used to go. You know.
Yeah. This Friday, you know, I'm going to Carmarthen. We have that are meeting us. My husband and I are going to meet his friend and
oh nice. Oh well, that's all right. I went to
once a
Cardiff
year.
on Friday
So you're
on
right
the train.
on the train, yes.
Yeah, and with my friend Diane.
Where are you going?
I nearly left her behind,
Yeah.
but you know, it was fun. I went to see Mari
Oh,
and Felix. We only went really to look at the Christmas.
yeah.
It's just started the Christmas market and had lunch, and we just went into the you know, that pub, the pub, Prince of Wales, Wetherspoons.
Yeah.
And but when I came, well, we were only 3 hours, and then when we got back on the train, I went on. She went ahead of me. She went miles ahead. She said, "I'm going to stop the train for you because we're going to be late." I rushes off, get on the train. No sign of her anywhere. No sign of Diane. Oh my God. And here comes Mari now. She's noticed that we're all, you know, separated, and she's coming to say, Diane was sat down the other end of the platform. She didn't even know the train was in.
Oh my. Yeah.
So it was a bit, you know,
Yeah.
fraught.
Right, yes. Oh.
But I'm going to get a coffee now, and
Yeah, me too.
yeah, I mean, it's I don't know when's the best time, really. Like, there's so many appointments and things, you
I
know.
know, yeah.
I think I'm having BT next Friday. Oh, you know, open reach
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And Tuesday morning I've got something. Oh, Wednesday is okay. Is a Wednesday good for you?
I don't know. I have to look at my calendar.
Yeah. Oh, we'll look at your calendar and we should get Bob Bill down, really. We should go to my steak town hall.
Oh yeah. Well,
It's a new, you know, it's all been opened, you
yeah,
know.
yeah, it's all new. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm going to go and get
Yes,
a coffee
better
now
go.
and
Better go.
just see. We'll have a think.
Yeah.
Come on, Dad. Like, come on over here. Come on. Come on. Oh, okay.
Nice and warm in my little room. Hmm. Yeah, I was looking at Upton on Severn, and there's no information about that monastery that I thought was there. It is there though, but it was there, put it that way. And it was supposed to have been founded by the Jutes, I think, not the Franks.
Come on, bandit.
Do you? Do you know where it is?
Come on, bandit. Come on,
Oh God.
come on. I gotta get teaching, bandit. Come on, it's okay. Come on,
We
lie
always
by
used
the
to go
bed.
there on the way home if we
Come on,
cut through the
come on,
Malverns.
come on,
Oh
bandit.
God.
Come on over here. It's okay.
Do they
Come
talk
on,
to you?
come on. Oh, that's good. Lie down by here. Come on. It's okay. It's all. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's all right. Go by you. That's lovely, isn't it? Oh, that's good. Oh, no. That's good. Settle down by you. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's all right. That's good. That's good. Settle down. Oh, that's good. Calm down now. That's good. Bye, yeah, bye, yeah, bye, yeah. That's good. Nice warm fire for the sheep. Are we ready, folks?
Yeah. Nice warm fire for you. You've got to keep warm as well.
And I gotta warm the sheep up.
Oh. And then send them out.
No, it's my favourite. It's Erica. Erica the sheep. She likes me.
Oh.
So oh, and there's baby Bandit. It's a little sheep. Yeah, if anyone wants to sponsor a sheep, you're very, very welcome. Right, let's crack on. Right, okay.
Oh.
Right, okay. Let's crack on. Right, okay. Now the next bit, to be honest with you, if I just did the next bit all day, right, it would have been great. So we're gonna look at pets now. And right, okay, before we get to the images, right? What pets did they have in the Iron Age? As somebody said online, they've said rats. Right, so Anne, what type of pets did they have in the Iron Age?
Expect they had dogs.
Yeah, that's your choice. Goff.
Well, I would have said dogs.
Yeah.
I can't say dogs, it's already taken.
Okay, hamsters.
The Romans would have had dormices. The Romans would have had dormices, right?
Yeah.
But not in Britain, because hamsters come from Mongolia, don't they? So not in Britain. Go on, Goff, another try. Go on.
Rabbits.
Oh, they come from Syria, hamsters.
Anyway, so they could have had them. The Romans brought.
But this is the bloody Iron Age.
That was the Romans.
Oh, son the bloody Romans, Goff.
They were Syrian Roman soldiers, weren't they?
Yeah, but we're talking about the Iron Age.
Iron Age, yeah. I mean,
Well, that goes to the start of the Roman period.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
All
know.
right, then you can have bloody gerbils, okay?
I don't know if they could be bothered with pets.
Gerbils.
I don't know if they could be bothered.
You can shut up, right, Richard?
Hares.
Bears?
Hares. Yes,
Hares.
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 They're
Hares,
baiting.
like a head.
How about birds, thrushes, and things like that?
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
had a bit of thrush once. Yes.
I bet. Parrots. Yeah. But
Oh, I don't know about parrots.
No. Yeah. We'll have that.
I'd
Right.
say birds. A bird in a
Crows!
gilded cage.
Anne, when it's not your turn. Right. Are you saying anything, Pat? Pat.
I'm here.
Right.
Oh,
What? I wish I hadn't even bloody started this now. What pets did they have in the Iron Age?
pets.
Yes.
Wow. Don't know.
Don't spend all day about it, Pat. We got loads of grass growing under our feet.
Sorry. I just keep thinking about these guinea pigs they used to keep in Peru. And they kept them in the living room, you know, a little cage. Like,
How would they get from Peru to Britain?
I know. Anyhow, I just went
You
guinea
mean,
pigs here.
yeah, are you talking about our Iron Age? Oh.
What the hell?
Do we have any
Gerbils,
guinea
guinea
pigs?
pigs?
Were
What?
the guinea pigs here?
Oh, for God's sake, we can have them. Just leave them there. Right.
Well, they ate them there. They kept their meal running around the living room.
Yeah.
Right. Who else have we got online? Henry.
Good evening. How
Yeah, go
about
on.
stoats?
A pet.
What?
Stoats.
Toads.
Stoats.
Toads.
Toads.
Stoats.
I was going to say
Ferret.
frogs. I was going to say
How
frogs.
about ferrets?
Ferrets. Yeah. Whatever. Right. Anyway.
Kitty cats.
Yes. Kitty cats. We can have. Right. That's fine.
Elephants.
Shut your bloody elephants. It's Iron Age Britain, you freak. Right. Okay.
Or birds.
Hey, I don't know how the AI is going to cope with this tonight.
Right, okay. Obviously, this is an image back from Alderney. We'll just go on to the next bit. Right, that's fine. Yeah. I got to finish around at 9:30 because I got a makeup artist to speak to. Don't even want to go there. But obviously, in the archaeological evidence, we have found and we understand that Iron Age pets came in a variety of different forms in Iron Age Britain before the damnable Romans. Right now.
Okay.
Some of you guessed rightly, right? Not that I know where ferrets come from. We're not going to have guinea bloody pigs. They come from Peru. No, but right, but other words, right? We're just going to go for a little bit of a list, okay?
Oh,
God, right, all right. So now the next image, right? I loving this, right? Guess what the name of this dog is?
Oh,
Rover.
a spot.
He's called Rusty.
Oh, Rusty. Oh, that's good.
Rusty, the Iron Age dog, is on display in the Carinian Museum. I kid you not, in Cirencester.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't see
Wow!
him.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, he's on display there and he's called Rusty. To celebrate the arrival of the new Iron Age dog display, they launched a competition to name him. And
Oh,
this was in a museum. And they had hundreds of entries, which they whittled down to a short list of 3 and then put them in a public vote. And the winning name is Rusty.
oh, that's
Right,
nice.
so yeah,
Look,
Rusty.
Rusty.
Rusty, not Rusty Bin, right? Or Dusty or Rusty, but
No,
this is
no,
Rusty.
Rusty. That's a
Now,
lovely name.
it is a lovely name, right? Anne, have you finished? Good. So, Rusty, the Iron Age dog's discovery, the excavation by Oxford Archaeology in 2008 on the northeastern edge of Cirencester revealed evidence of Cirencester's prehistoric past, including Iron Age activity dating to be between 400 and 200 years BC. In the base of one of the 19 pits, I kid you not, they came across a skeleton of a dog, a crow, and a skeletal statue of Lloyd George. Kidding you not, right? And the one point is that last night somebody was saying, they asked me a question. They said, based on the earlier lecture, they said, right, Carl, in an archaeological excavation, where do you stop digging, right? And the answer was quite mixed. I said, right, this is 2.5 meters deep. The one thing is you don't go too deep that the trench is going to collapse in on you, right? So that's one of the points. So you can't go too deep.
Mm.
Next, if you're excavating and you feel that you've actually got the answers that you need, you stop, right? If you're excavating and you're thinking that maybe there isn't anything older than the Bronze Age in this excavation, you stop, right? Or if you might actually think that there might be something below this, but you don't want to continue. And the other thing as well is you might actually get to natural rock, which is actually the case of our dog, Rusty, right? He was found basically. They this is in limestone. They were excavating, right? And they were excavating down, and they found this hole in the ground, and in the hole in the ground there was a dog and the remains of a crow, right? Now the point is, we're talking about, were there pets in the Iron Age? And the answer is that we're not going to answer it yet. And I'm going to open the window because for some reason my fire's not working and there's smoke coming back in the room. So right, so I'm not going to answer it now, and the reason why I'm not going to answer it now is because there's something else that we're going to do at the end that definitely tells you that they had pets in the Iron Age, right? It's so easy for me to say that we've got a dog deliberately buried. Is place where he's buried. They deliberately cut a hole in the limestone, so they've gone through a lot of effort, not only digging a hole, cutting a hole into the limestone to put the dog, right? That constitutes a pet, but then again, we're not going to say that it constitutes a pet because
No.
I want to give you more evidence at the end, which proves that people had pets in the Iron Age. I want you to think, right, it may have been a loved dog, but was it a pet? Well, you love an animal, it's a pet, right? But a crow was buried with it as well. And this is amazing. So you've got this whole story is amazing, and I'm loving it. And you're getting an idea of the real archaeology, and you're getting an idea of our dog Rusty. And in fact, they found, I would say they found roughly 85% of the skeletal remains of our dog Rusty. And the point is, this to me is something that we don't talk about. I do so many lectures on archaeology, as you know, we do one a week, right? And if you think about all the lectures that you've been to with me, some of you have been to probably 500 lectures, right? And in some of you may have been to a lot more lectures than that. I can't think, right? If Anne's been with me since for 12 years, and she's been to basically 50 odd lectures a year, you can work out the maths on that, right? Anyway, some of you do 2 lectures a week, and all these things. But anyway, very rarely do I mention animals' role in archaeology, and I very rarely mention pets, because to be honest with you, very few archaeologists mention pets. They don't really mention pets, but pets are massively important. For example, okay, define what a pet is. Sorry to go on a bit. Define what a pet is. I have got 23 sheep, right? None of them are destined to be eaten, right? This week we sold one of the sheep's fleeces. This week we've had 2 orders of sheep manure, right? Michelle uses the wool from the sheep for various different things, right? So our animals are more valuable alive than dead, right? But do you tell me that they're pets or they're farm animals? They are farm animals because they're producing a product, but they're not going to die. So does that mean if they're not going to, well, put it this way, they are going to die, but they're not going to be killed to be eaten, unless we have an outbreak of blue tongue where I've got to put the entire flock down. But the point is, what I'm getting at is, if an animal grows old, right, is it a sign whether it's a pet or not? Right, all these questions you've got to ask. Define what a pet is. For example, Ruth last night, she was talking about the axolotl. Me and Michelle, we gave her an axolotl, which is like a newt thing that lives in caves. She's got an axolotl in a tank, right? Now, is a fish a pet? Right? Is a newt-like creature like an axolotl a pet? Is a toad a pet? Right? Is a cat a pet? One of our cats, for example, Marley, our cat, he's here because he deals with our rat problem. Because we feed in chickens, he deals with our rat problem, right? So is Marley a pet, or is he a working cat, right? So these questions is, define what a pet is. So in many ways, depending on which way you look at an animal, it's a pet or not, right? If you give hang on a minute, Anne. If you give a name to an animal, is it a pet? Right. Anyway, Anne, carry on.
Well, I think it depends what the pet, what size of the animal, and what, I think if, like, a dog has always been man's best friend, in that, he's been able to guard and protect his master.
But then again, it's doing a job. Isn't it a pet?
Yeah, he's doing a job, really. But, a lot of dogs, it's like police, a lot of police dogs have a good relationship with their masters, but they're not pets.
They're not. They're working animals. They're working like a horse.
Yeah, I mean,
like
I think they're sort of, if you're living in a hard environment and it's quite, I wouldn't imagine they'd waste much time or food on pets as such, but the children might. Like, and a bird. I think a bird, you know, trap birds in a cage, maybe, or maybe
Back
birds
to a
for
crow. Back
hunting.
to a crow. Back to a crow.
Birds
Exactly.
like crows, you know, for hunt. Well, they might tame a crow, like you
Yes.
did, you know, for
Like we exactly,
hunting.
exactly. Anyway, the point I'm going to try to make, another point as well. Sorry to go on because I'm gonna crack on with this now. So we've got half an hour. Um, um, you know, for example, the Germans in the Second World War, they used hundreds of thousands of horses in their army, right? The German army was not fully mechanized. It used hundreds of thousands of horses. So after the Second World War, when there's all those horses like horses still alive, right? And somebody takes care of some of those horses, right? And they become pets. Um, so technically, are they a working animal or are they a pet? At some point, they become a pet. So all of these questions you've got to think about. Animals working down mines, for example, ponies down a mine, they're doing a job. They come up into the fresh air. They're in a field, right? They're not really pets. They're in retirement, right? All of these questions you've got to ask. What defines a pet? This dog, an adult male, was probably about 3 years old when it died. It's quite a chunky animal, and when you think about it, dogs don't have a massively long life, but they deliberately went out of their way to bury the dog in a hole. And here comes another problem, right? Here comes another problem. Last year, we buried 40 animals, right? About 20 of our chickens, you know, a turkey that had been killed. But we actually had loads of roadkills, right? So we buried a peregrine falcon, we buried tawny owl, you know, because things that we find on the roads around here, that it just seems a shame that beautiful animals just being killed, we bury them, right? So we bury them, right? So somebody in future generations, they find a tawny owl buried, right? And there's a certain ritual when I bury an animal. I like dig a hole in the ground and I put some straw in there. And we put the animal in there and we might plant a tree above it, right? So they find these animals in future generations. Because the animal's been buried, does that constitute that it was a pet? It wasn't. It was an animal we picked up on the road, right? So all of these questions you've got to ask yourself: what defines a pet? So this dog itself, it's probably a herding and a guarding dog, but is it a pet, right? So when you examine this dog, they realized that the dog itself was in a very good state of preservation. There is the bones for the crow, by the way, right? And they did the reconstruction, right? And they did the reconstruction from the bones. You can see bits of the skull are not complete there, but the spinal column is. And this dog itself, they do believe, terrier-like, that this resembled a modern terrier. So when you go back to the image again, deposition of complete animals in pits are commonly found in Britain throughout the Iron Age, right? So, for example, the other week, right, we actually one of our goats died. Right, we had him for like 5 years. He died, so I buried him. I dug a hole and I buried him. Right now, say in a year's time, some of our sheep are getting old. I bury a sheep alongside it. Right, the goat was technically a pet because it didn't really do anything except being a goat. Right, goats are actually useless in grazing grass. They like grazing bushes. Right, so I bury a sheep alongside him. But they're both buried alongside each other. So somebody excavates the sheep and they excavate the goat and they say these must have been pets. But the sheep technically is not a pet. So you've got to think about this. And because they've been buried in holes in the ground, like this one, actually naturally archaeologists are saying this is of ritual significance, the usual crap. This is a ritual significance. And the placement of animals in storage pits was common to the appeasing the spirits and the underworld. Well, nobody from the Iron Age is around to ask whether that was the case. Nobody from the Iron Age in Britain wrote down the fact that they buried animals to appease the spirits in the underworld. And my animals buried in the field there to appease the spirits in the underworld. No, they're not at all. When you look at the dog, it fits in with the idea that the dog was a was guardian, extending its role in life to the spirit world. So you're thinking, right, you've got a guard dog in. This is another way of looking at it. You've got a guard dog in life, right? And it's a guard dog who's buried in a hole in the ground to guard the spirit world in some way, so that the body is buried. That's rather interesting because we sometimes bury people in a context in modern day society, and they think, right, that person that we're burying, our husband or our wife or our uncle or something like that, we're burying them in a specific way, and we're putting a gravestone there, and we always feel that they're going to be with us, so they're going to be guarding us, they're going to be looking after us from the spirit world. So you could think, and they're family members, so you could think the same as the dog, just thinking about all of this. So the dog itself, found in 2008 by a team of archaeologists. They worked together with biologists, conservators, and museum curators, putting the body together, reconstructing the body for display in the Coronium Museum. It is one of only a small number on display in museums across Britain. The question is, should a dog be displayed in this way? Right, skeletal remains. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm gonna put words in your mouth. I'm sure you're all happy. Sorry to sound bombastic, but it's not meant to come across that way. I'm sure you're all happy to see the remains of a dog displayed like this. But I'm sure most of you would feel uneasy about a set of human remains being displayed like this, right? Why is that? So maybe you don't have the same connection with this animal, right? Because you don't see it as a pet. You see where I've gone there. So this, when we put this in here as well, and we think about the bones of the crow being buried is a very important animal, and I feel in many ways that we don't explain the story of the crow remains, right, which is a bit of a shame. So this isn't really pieced together. The crow remains are not really pieced together. For me, it's a shame because I'd like to have seen that. But the body of the dog itself, we'll keep with the images of the crow bones. The body of the dog itself, found in 2008. It was all hundreds of pieces put together. It was glued and erected together in Lancashire and conservation studios up there, and then brought back down. And the team, piece by piece, rebuilt the dog and put the dog on display. So the age, condition, small stature, and completeness of this specimen made for an extraordinary project, and it's naturally on display in the Coronium Museum, which I think is absolutely brilliant. But for me, we got to look at the crow bones. For me, the crow tells another story. As you know, I used to have, what would you call it, Anne? I'm not going to give. I used to have
Raven.
No, I used to have a crow. Okay, say
Crow.
okay, yeah, but what would you say the crow was?
It was big. Raven.
Yeah. No, it was a crow, Anne. But no, I'm trying to lead you. What would you say the crow was? A pet?
In your case, yes.
Yeah, but do you see the crow as a pet?
Do I see your crow as a pet?
Yeah. Do you see my crow as a pet?
I saw it as a pet to you. Yeah, I didn't see it as a pet to me. It was a pet.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. It's my pet. It's my pet. And as you now the one thing I would say that is quite important, that Michelle found these two crows, and we had one called Arthur, one called Bran. One called Arthur, it lost its wing, and we couldn't save it, and it died. If it was around now, I could save it because I've got some skills to be able to manage animals. but it didn't live. But the other one called Bran did, and Bran was with us for about 2.5 years, right? And she was connected to us. She was really connected to us. Now, I didn't feel that Bran. I felt Bran was a friend actually, rather than a pet, because not many people have pets. But at the end of the day, you could see her as a pet, right? Back to this. It took them 5 years to get this animal ready for display, right? And it's now on display in the Carinian Museum, which is absolutely brilliant. And I would fully recommend seeing this animal and looking at the animal and thinking, what does this animal tell us? What does this animal tell us about the Iron Age? And again, we talked about the Antikythera mechanism, which is that wonderful astrological clock-like object with cogs and all the rest of it, which was found dated to 2,000 years plus, which was found by the off the island of Antikythera, and we people look at that and they think, what does this mean? What does this object mean? What does it tell us about the old Greek world, right? If they didn't find these animals in the Iron Age, we would have no real evidence that they are pets. Or is that wrong? And because we're going to go on to something really interesting now. Well, this is really interesting, but last image of Rusty there. And let's go on to the last point, really. But before we get on to the very, very last point, right? Let's do it this way, right? Let's just make the statement, and that'll be at the end, and then we'll do the other point, and then we'll do what this is. So, ancient Britons, headline news: ancient Britons kept chickens as pets and used them as symbolic burial companions for hundreds of years. The bird was so revered that Iron Age communities viewed eating its meat, eggs, as taboo. Now, I'm going to say, how the bloody hell do they know that? But the evidence I'm going to show you now is very, very interesting indeed. But before we actually go on to that, before we actually express that and try and go on to that, then let's just do this now. Let's just do this little list before we go, right? So Iron Age people kept a variety of animals as pets and for other purposes. Chickens, we'll look at that, right? They say that people in the Iron Age didn't eat the meat of the chickens and eggs because they felt they were holy. Well, there's no way they're going to know that, except there is a way you're going to know that. You excavate an Iron Age body, and you would be able to find elements of certain proteins that would indicate that they actually ate meat from chickens and they ate chicken eggs. So that is one point, right? Dogs. We know about dogs, an active part of the Iron Age society. We've got other dog remains across the Iron Age world, and we've just been talking about it. Cats may have been kept to control vermin. Well, yeah, definitely. You only had the black rat in Britain back then, but the black rat would have been quite an interesting animal to deal against. And you'd need a cat. Now, cats wise, you've got the wild cats in Britain, which are native to Britain. You've got lynxes in Britain, which are native to Britain. And I don't know if any of you heard this story. About 6 or 7 months ago, I was in the house here and I went up the steps and there was this massive black thing looking at me, right? And it was the size my Marley, right? It was 4 times bigger than the cat at our Marley, 4 times bigger than the cat. And I know that because when it bit into my wrist, right, and it was hanging off my arm with blood hovering everywhere, I've still got the marks in my wrist, right? And Marley's mouth wouldn't be able to get around my wrist. This animal did, right? It was a huge thing, right? The reason why I'm mentioning that, there are cats in Britain, and I've no idea what this thing is, but it's no doubt that they would have had cats hanging around their buildings in the Iron Age. Also, with goats, hares, maybe hares are a symbol that seemed to come up a fair bit in the Iron Age. Pigs and so on, normal domestic animals, whether any of these were pets, maybe they were, maybe they weren't. Can you remember Jeremy Clarkson? This is where we're going to go with the chickens in a moment. Do you remember Jeremy Clarkson on his farm? He basically had this cow, right? That was that was, I think, was it a bull or was it a heifer? I'm not sure, but anyway, he had this cow and he decided, right, I'm not going to have this cow butchered. We're going to keep it, right? It can't really do anything. We're just going to keep the cow, right? He decided to keep it. It's going to be a pet. Well, people may have thought that in the Iron Age, and this is a curveball. Now, this is a curveball. Bees, amongst other animals. Bees provided honey for sweetening and beeswax for metal casting, right? Well, bees. If you think about bees, right, the best bees are bees that you talk to. If you talk to your bees, the bees won't sting you. If you look after the bees won't. The bees will stay around, and that's a fact, right? And you're thinking, well, if you're talking to bees, right, are they therefore pets? That's a question, but we don't need to answer that. Now, finally, we're going to do the next bit, right? Let's just do the next bit. And okay, let's just make sure that I've got the right thingy majig here. Yeah, I do. Right. Headline news. Iron Age chickens died of old age because they were seen as sacred and not food. Now, we know that researchers found that cockerels can be dated by measuring the length of their tarso-metatarsal spur, which develops on their legs, as depicted above on the screen. Now, I'll tell you that this is actually wrong, right? Because I've got a lot of cockerels and I know that this is wrong, right? It's the timeline's wrong, right? It says at birth they start developing a little sheath. No, they don't, right? Maybe after 7 months they develop a little sheath, right? The heavy big spur that they've got there doesn't develop for about a year plus, right? So C is wrong. I know this because I've got loads of cockerels. And maybe D is after a year and a half. So this is about 6 months behind, about a year and a half, 2 years, where you get what's known as a fused spur. And I can tell you how powerful these these spurs are. 2 years ago, right? Michelle was we used to have a cockerel called Turkey, right? He's the back in 2015, Michelle gave me 2 chickens. And I used to keep them in my house in Barry, and one of them turned out to be a cockerel, which I called Turkey, right? Which is quite fortuitous. Years later, I'd have Baldrick, who's a turkey, right? Anyway, 2 years ago, Michelle was feeding the animals, and she knelt over, and this turkey came at her with both of the spurs, and they went through both of her cheeks, right?
Oh,
They perforated both of her cheeks, ripped both of her cheeks,
oh,
right? If she hadn't been wearing glasses, it may have actually blinded her or actually killed her, right?
wow.
And the next thing I did was to cut its spurs, and blood went every bloody where. I went ballistic with the thing, right? But anyway, the point is that animal, right? That animal at that point was 7 years old, right? And it had a very big fused spur like that. And that's what we're talking about, right? So whenever they do things in archaeology, they should ask somebody who knows a little bit about these things. So commonly used methods for aging mammals can't be used in chickens, like teeth, but you use spurs. Cockerel spurs, right? Or the normal legs which don't have spurs are obviously hens. So the team applied this process to analysing these animals. 1,366 fowl leg bones from across the history of Britain, from Iron Age, Roman, Saxon times, and so on. Now, then other people come in and say, oh, the reason why they kept their spurs was because they were used in sacrifice or cockfighting. Well, If they're using sacrifice or cockfighting, they're not going to live long, are they? So that's nonsense. Cockfighting, and these animals themselves, cockerels naturally fight anyway, right? Did you know chickens naturally fight, right? It's not unusual, right? Maybe they did a bit of cockfighting, but lots of these animals lived a big, long age, right? So it's talking here, in their study, they used a new aging technique amongst the sexes, and they realized that if we go to this chart, right, and we'll look at the spur thing. If we go to this chart in the Iron Age, the one on the left, right, the majority of bones that they find in the archaeological record in the Iron Age are cockerel bones, and the cockerel bones are of a great age, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. A chicken, if we go back to the notes, for example, here we go. Chickens live significantly longer in the Iron Age, average. And maybe, obviously, you can see similarly in the Roman period, but then in any other period after that, right? And it might be seen that obviously cockerels are around because they might be seen as sacred, but there's not much meat on a cockerel compared to a chicken. In modern Britain. What?
We've all heard of henpecked.
Yeah, bloody hell! I get that from Michelle, and my mum gives me that to my dad all the bloody time. But
between hens, they do fight.
They do fight. Hens actually fight. Basically,
Yeah.
you get a very dominant hen. In modern Britain, poultry birds' lives typically last around 33 to 81 days, but their ancient counterparts often survived 4 years old, and that's we're talking about hens as well, right? Which is rather interesting. Not just cockerels, but hens. I find that quite strange to feed. We've got chickens around here that are months old, and they're still quite small. To feed a chicken so it's fat at 81 days, you need to have food in front of it 24/7 in a cage, right?
Yeah.
And then they get big, right? Our chickens don't. If anyone wants any pet chickens, we've got loads. We've got loads you can have as a pet chicken. So this is what we're talking about with the spurs, right? So we can see here the spurs, and what you've got there. You can see those great old spurs, right? It says, whoever's writing this has got this wrong. We're talking about 4 years old to have spurs like that, right? And obviously that's a really nice age, dating to about 300 years BC. Anyway, so back to this, it's basically explaining that people kept cockerels because of cockfighting, which is, for me, ridiculous because they would be dead after a few months. So the findings came from research by Exeter University. I'm loving this, but some of the facts that they're using are not exactly correct. I live amongst chickens, so I think I know a little bit about these types of things. Getting the age of fowl from their remains has long been difficult, but now we know about the spurs. So now we're looking at these tarso-metatarsal spurs, which get longer and more solid as they get mature. Applying this to fowl dating back as far as the Iron Age, we get an idea that some of these chickens seem to be revered. And again, you can clearly see that you've got a lot of male cockerels living for quite some time. And I think it's what they're finding is the bones don't show any signs of any knife marks on them, and that they've been, but then again, if you boil bones, you don't need any knife marks and the meat just comes off the bone, right? So you can look at it in several different ways. So I think you need a little bit more analysis. But the big question at the end of just this little bit today is to just think, I'll put the question now and then you can think about it and then we'll finish in a few moments. Were chickens kept as pets in the Iron Age? Don't answer it yet. So domestic fowl was introduced in the Iron Age and likely held a special status where they were viewed as sacred rather than as a food source. Now, if you've got a certain type of chicken, it's a white chicken, and all the other chickens are brown and grey, and you've got Warrens, and you've got Hambledon Blacks, and all these wonderful names that you've got from that. Or you might have white marsh daisies, for example. You might have certain chickens that you might keep, and the other chickens you would eat. Most chicken bones show no evidence in the Iron Age for butchery and were buried as complete skeletons rather than with other food waste. Interesting that. So the study confirms the special status of these rare and highly prized birds, showing that from the Iron Age into the Roman period, they were kept for many years. And the age of cockerels, and the thing is, by 4 years old, that's the age of which cockerels then start to naturally die off. And then obviously you've got another generation. But back to this cockfighting thing, and that there's another question there. Let's give it you. Just read what the caption says. An ancient Roman mosaic depicting a cockfight, and the birds are facing off in front of a table on which lies a caduceus staff and the winner's purse and a palm of victory. Right. And again, this is all really relevant to try to understand, and that was the big question. I at the beginning of this, when we were talking about pets, I said we'll leave something to the end, which might prove that they kept pets in the Iron Age. And for me personally, I think the point is that this does prove that they did actually keep pets in the Iron Age because they lived a long age. For whatever reason, that's what I feel anyway. And you can add your 4 penneth to that. So it's 9:27, and we're gonna call that a day. And let's just see if there's anything that anyone would like to say, and I'm sure there is. So right, the one we will start off with is Pat's fallen asleep. Pat!
Just a little bit. I'm listening.
You said you'd go at 9:15, Carl?
No, it's 9:30.
Oh, yeah.
Right, anyway, all right then. What we're going to do, we're going to ask Goff if he's got any questions.
I think most societies around the world have pets, don't they? All of them. All human beings end up having pets. I can't think of anywhere where they don't have pets or ever had pets. So yeah, great, very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, Goff. And I would say, Goff, that if you, for example, look at ancient Egypt, when they're opening some of the tombs in the early 1900s, they're finding tombs. They excavated one tomb, and there was 1 million ibis birds which had been mummified. Right.
Oh, yeah.
And you're thinking, well, right, okay, then. If that's the case, the ibis birds would have become extinct overnight if they all, were the ibis birds, were these ibis birds that were collected and then mummified? That is the big question, and we'll never know the answer to that. Were the ibis birds pets? We'll never know the answer to that, and why? In the early 1920s, a bright spark in Egypt decided that they needed fuel. So they burned one of these 1 million ibis birds to fuel, I think it was an electrical station or something that they had in Egypt.
One ibis bird.
What? 1 million? 1 million ibis birds, Anne, not one.
Oh, 1 million. I thought you said one. Oh,
No.
God.
Anne, you're not going to eat much with one ibis bird.
No.
Right, Anne, I'm quite shocked that you didn't even interrupt Goff. Then I am gobsmacked, and so's Goff.
I've gone into
Another
silence.
Yeah. That's fine.
Silent mode.
That's fine. And you would have been great in the Lantwick Major class when we were all in that room together, all sweaty 18 of us in that really tight room in Lantwick Major. It was great.
Oh,
there was a man you would have loved there called Jim.
Oh. I've heard so much about this Jim. God knows what he's like.
He's a pillock. Right, okay then. If there's nothing else from you, Anne, right? If there's nothing else from you, Anne, Richard.
Yeah, really sort of interesting subject.
Good. Good.
I think it is out though, isn't it? You know, I think, yes, there's a lot of debating to go on because there's different parts of the Iron Age in different parts of the world and all that stuff. But in Britain, I suppose, yes, we would have had dogs. I think
Yes.
dogs and maybe birds. You know, if you were using birds to hunt. But they'd be practical. I mean, I think they think children perhaps could have a little mouse or something. Or, you know.
Well, maybe you know what children are like. Exactly.
Yeah. They'd hide
exactly.
it though.
Exactly. Right. Okay. Right. Who have we got left? Pat.
No further comment. Actually, I enjoyed it, and I'll be thinking about these dogs now. And skeleton, I studied that skeleton. Some
You'll have to tell Richard.
I got
Richard see the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll have to go and tell him that you want to go and see the dog in the museum. And it'd be really interesting. What if you took a dog in to see the dog? That's another interesting thing.
And there's a mirror. And there's a mirror. You know,
the bird, one of the is Birdlip in Gloucester or Cyrus? I think there is a mirror there. Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah. And finally, we got our French friend Henry.
I'd just like to know why you're doing advertising for a different organisation.
What?
Your jacket.
Oh right, yeah. No, we shouldn't be showing that. Yeah.
Oh.
So I should have been showing. There we go. Our cozy coming. There it is. There it is. Sorry. Yeah. I rectified it. Cool.
Excellent.
Anything else?
No, I obviously missed the first part. But I joined the slightly strange, bizarre conversation later on. So very interesting.
Yeah, and the other stuff. Yeah, and you'll all have an AI report of the stuff that we had earlier on that makes no sense at all.
Okay. Are you sending this one?
Yeah, I will be sending you one. I might accidentally send you the other class from, and I'll just mix them up and I'll just confuse people. So anything else anyone wants to ask before Goff says? Anyone want to say anything else? No.
No.
Okay. So anyway, have a good night, folks. I thank you for joining us, and good night, Pat, Goff, Anne, Richard, and wonderful Henry, and I'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Night, my lovelies.
Bye.
Oh,
I'm free tomorrow, but
yeah.
Night, Goff and Henry.
Any Wednesdays okay? Wednesdays are okay.
Oh, like next week then,
or the week after, whichever.
All right then. I'll
have a look.
I know I've got to go and see my mother-in-law sometime, but there's so much going on now. I've had so many appointments, people coming to my house.
Oh dear.
Drug dealers.
I know he wants to go. Ta-ra.
No, I don't. I'm happy to listen to this. Everyone online.
Yeah.
By the way,
I've got a pole in my bathroom.
You got a Polish person in your bathroom.
Oh,
pole. To get in.
Why have you got a Polish person in your bathroom?
And because they haven't got anywhere to put the grab rail because it's all partition. There's no outside wall.
Oh.
So I've got a pole. I keep walking into it.
Oh dear.
And then someone else is coming, and someone else. Oh, honestly, and the medical. I had my.
Hang on a minute! Stop! How is it everyone's wandering into your bathroom?
Oh no, I had two men in my bathroom this week. And
There a leak?
they helped me in and out of the bath.
Yeah. Say no more. Say no more. Right. I'm gonna say goodbye. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Oh,
fine.
goodbye. Yes.
Goodbye.
Right, you two
Yeah.
meet up. You
Okay.
two meet up and have a good one. That'll be good.
Okay. Keep in touch.
We'll be in touch. Okay.
Night night, guys. Night night, Anne.
Bye.
Night night.
Goodbye.
Night night. Anyone, anyone still online? Anyone online that wants to talk to me on YouTube, right? I think I think we lost some of you in the break actually, which was a bit of a shame. Well, I would know if I lost some of you in the break. But if anyone wants to say anything, I don't know if you're still there. At least it was great having you go up on the feed there, and it's good to have you back. It really is. Glad for you to be back. At least I did. We're missing you, right? We're missing you. And I just want to know if anyone wants to say anything else before I go. Yeah, it would be nice to hear if anyone's got anything else to say. Well, I'm just going to look on my phone now, and I'm going to just see stuff, and yeah, I just do you know, have you ever had those days, somebody was having a go at me on the internet, right, who was a fake profile, and they were saying he's not a real archaeologist, and it was like, well, I've got this degree, and I've got that, I was saying, and I just thought, why did I even bother entertaining people like that? There's so many toxic people out there on the internet, and it's just sometimes not worth wasting your time. It's really, really not worth wasting your time. So, anyone else got anything that they want to say? Oh, and Elise, it's been great to have you back. And Elise, could you do me a little bit of a favor, right? And this is for everybody, right? As you know, I'm an actor and working on a bit of a film production at this minute, and it doesn't cost, right? Could all of you, right? Could all of you please subscribe to our channel, which I'm putting the details up. There it is. If you could subscribe to @The Walking Dead UK. We're trying to get some more subscribers to build up the channel there. And if you can actually join that'd be really, really good. And anyone got any donations, that would be brilliant. And we're back next week. We're back on Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm going to get the fire going in here. It's a bit cold. Thank you very much, Elise. It's good to have your support. I haven't really been on X for a while, or Instagram. Yes, things are different, and things are slightly different, Elise. And also, if you've noticed, we're doing the daily Roman video every single day. We're doing the Roman video every day, and so that's useful. And obviously I was doing my videos about OCD, which I don't need to do at this minute. That's good. And obviously we're working on the Walking Dead stuff as well, and obviously my live show next year, which I'm hoping that we can get some more ticket sales in as well. So anyway, I'm going to call it a day now, because I got to make a phone call. I said I got to make a phone call to a makeup artist, so I got to get on with speaking with her, and hopefully we can get her doing some work for us. So anyway, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. And it's always weird on this channel that I'm going to go to this. It's always very strange that we get lots of people. Well, I think we had nine odd people watching at one time on YouTube, so that was good. And it's trying to get everybody to like and subscribe, and anyone who wants to join. So what we're going to do now, hoping to make my live show. Really? Oh my God! If you are hoping to make the live show, right? Do you know the dates for the live show? I'm going to put the dates for the live show up here as well. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. If you do make the live show, then obviously we've got the one on the 22nd of January, which is in Lampeter. Lampeter, yeah, Lampeter. That's the first live show in Lampeter, and then we've got the 7th of March, which is in Ystrid Gun Lice. And then we've got the other live, which is on the 22nd of March, which is the Chepstow one. That's a really nice venue. And then we've got the 4th of April, which is in Brecon. And then we've got the 18th of April, which is in Abergavenny. So if you are, then that would be absolutely great. So you're saying, yes, have a dear friend in North Wales, and it's been ages since I've jumped the pond. But just come over to the pond. And that would be great. So you'd be very welcome. And whatever date's there, then just let me know. Bring your friend along. Come early and just spend a few hours, or sort of stay locally or whatever for one of those dates. I would say that if you can get to maybe Chepstow, Ystrid Gun Lice is a big venue. I'm not sure how much we can fill there. But any of those dates anyway. This would be good to see you. Just let me know. Keep in touch, Elise. I know you keep up to date with what we're doing, so that's brilliant. April's sound great. Well, you come to both Brecon and Abergavenny. They're obviously not too far away from each other. Actually, Brecon is 40 minutes from Abergavenny, right? And not 4 days away. 40 minutes, so that's good. Anyway, Elise, anything you want to say before you go? Because I'm going to go in a minute, and I'll leave you to respond a minute. And other than that, I'm going to go and just see what's going on. So what have we got there? Strange stuff. Yeah, and don't forget to join. Don't forget to sub the Walking Dead UK. If you can do that, that would be absolutely great. Because at this minute, it's a new channel. It's a very new channel. We've been there for like 5 weeks, and we've got 113 subscribers. Wanted to get to 200 by the middle of December, so we can put the next bit of the episode up there and watch anything on there. Anyway, I'm going to go now. I'm going to go, and love to see you next year at the live. And Elise, I'm going to go, and you can buy all my books as well. Anyway, or maybe have a free book and I'll sign it for you. Anyway, anyway, thanks for your support. We're going to call it a day now. So I'm going to say, like, and subscribe, and we're going to say nostalgie and yma o hyd. Yma o hyd means we're still here, but then again, we're not going to be, because I'm going. Nos da, diolch yn fawr chi. Night. Let's look in the chat box. This chat box is really different. So nothing in the chat box. 1. I'll do that again. We don't have much in the chat box some days. Nothing in the chat box 1. Nothing in the chat box 2. Nothing in the chat box 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10. Nothing in the chat box. Nostalgie. Night. Night. The live is finished.